Hello there. It is Natalie Gensits back with day, what are we, Reshaunda?
23.
23, I think.
Yeah.
It's Natalie Gensits here,
Reshaunda Thornton.
and we are back with our 30 days, 30 ways to a better health and mindset. Yesterday, we had a little fun interviewing Miss Reshaunda and learned
Yeah.
some more stuff about her. I did post this morning. I don't know if you saw it, but I forgot to ask you about your fridge and pantry, so
Ah,
I'm
okay.
asking you to put that in there.
Okay, we'll do. I forgot about it too, but I will. We'll take care
Okay,
of
sounds good.
that.
So today we're going to talk about taming your spring allergies. Um, yes, it is high season for tree pollens right now, and meanwhile, we're cooped up inside the house more than we want to be, and the weather is up and down, so we're not necessarily getting out as much as we want to be, but if you have allergies, you're probably less inspired to get out. But we're going to talk today a little bit about various types of allergies and how those can affect you overall, because they can greatly affect your mood and your productivity, aside from making you miserable and stuffy and all of those things. We have some great information about some tips to help tame those and just the why behind how it all affects you and works together. So you might not realize this, but you have your environmental allergies to trees, to molds, to grasses potentially, but there's also a food component involved, and they are related. And Reshaunda, you're going to get into that a little bit more, talking about the food, your specialty area, your area of specialty. So let us know, inform us, educate us.
No problem.
Mhm.
So you want me to just jump into the food part?
Yeah, let's
Okay, all
start
right.
talking about how I have a lot of allergy issues, and I know that the foods can play a part in the
Yeah.
environmental. They can compound on each other. So,
And that's
yeah.
And that's something I don't think people recognize, because you have your food allergies and you have your environmental allergies, so that you kind of compartmentalize them and not know that they can kind of overlap. When you say food allergies, you're not talking about the top five foods that most people are allergic to. It's actually foods that you probably wouldn't even think about. So I'm just going to kind of talk about how foods impacts certain foods that impacts us when we are responding to an allergy in the springtime. Typically, an allergy that's responding to like pet dander or pollen or dust, And so there are certain foods that actually have high histamine. And so when you're eating those particular foods while you're having a reaction, it only exacerbates it more. And just to give you guys a list of those foods so you can just kind of be aware of it when you are having those reactions. Some of your aged cheeses are high histamine, blue cheese specifically, your smoked meats. Think about some of your nuts. We know we already have nut allergies, but these are more tree nuts, but your walnuts and your cashews, they're high in histamines. Fermented foods like sauerkraut, perhaps pickles, capers, hot peppers, and even like what we drink, wine. Most wine is made out of grapes, and so you got to think about the sulfites in it and the fermentation from the grapes and some alcohols. So those foods are already high in histamine, so it only makes your condition worse. There's another component of it too. There are certain proteins in fruits and vegetables that actually trigger when you're having reactions to pollen. And I'm just going to give you a list. And the list is, and we call these cross reactors because they make the condition worse. These fruits and vegetables are spices like parsley, nuts like almonds, celery, tomatoes, apples, carrots, pears, and cherries. So again, they're all healthy for us, but in light of when we're having a reaction, we may want to have it a little bit less so we don't trigger and make it worse. And so on the flip side, and I'll be really quick with this, is that there are some foods that's probably good for you during the springtime when you're having allergies. And a few is like wild caught fresh fish, onions, and pineapples. So consider some of those foods just to maybe switch some of your fruits, have pineapples instead of cherries. Make sure you get onions in to flavor your foods. And then think about some of the spices, like if you're doing your teas or you're making some sort of dish. We've heard about certain spices and herbs that contribute to decrease your inflammatory responses, and those are turmeric, ginger, and cinnamon. So just understanding what foods are going to help or hurt you is going to be your best weapon. And just to give you a quick note, now I got this information from a particular website called digestedbook.com. So this particular blog was in February. So look up February 2017. It's titled "What Are the Best and Worst Foods for Spring Allergies." Now, it was a couple years ago, but the same information is still fresh and it's still updated. And just to give you a little bit of insight, Natalie here actually is the lady that actually wrote the blog, and she has a book called The Digested. So that's where she's gleaning some of her information, and she has way more information in that particular book than just what you see on the blog. So I encourage you guys to look it up, and you will get a lot more information when it comes to just your wellness and how your body responds to things. So that's all. That's my soapbox for today.
Thanks for sharing, Reshaunda.
You're welcome.
Yeah, the cross reactors people don't necessarily think about, but so like right now, the pollens are blooming, and so those foods kind of mimic tree pollens and make you respond even more potentially. It's not across the board like everybody's going to have issues with it, but it's something to be more mindful of and to test out for yourself and experiment with. And then in the fall, there's a whole different set of foods that play off of the ragweed, and so it's definitely worth paying attention to if you have the spring allergies or the seasonal allergies going on, because we don't want to, and I don't want to get too far into this, but like when we're talking about food allergies, there's the outright allergy that you can have, but there's also sensitivities. So you may not be like having the difficulty breathing, it's not the anaphylactic thing we're talking about at all, but the sensitivity thing where you crop up with headaches or digestive issues or just depression and difficulty concentrating. Some of these things you might think are just your life right now, but in reality they might be triggered by foods that you're eating that you didn't realize you were sensitive to. So that's what we're kind of talking about today, and to be mindful of that, and especially as we're going through this new shutdown quarantine style of life, whatever we can do to bring up our mood, to bring up our productivity and feel good about things is something worth taking some time to do, right?
I agree.
So definitely the foods are good ways to help out, and I'm going to talk about some other ways to troubleshoot allergies, to minimize them, rope them in a little bit during the season. So some things you can do around your bedtime are do the nasal rinse to get the pollens out of your nose, like the Neilmed or neti pot. And I actually do that twice a day when I'm brushing my teeth. Shower at night, especially if you're outdoors, because you want to wash the pollens off. And then, of course, wash your bedding weekly or however often, frequently, to keep that clean and the pollens from collecting on that. Don't sleep with your windows open as much as you would love to, or just try not to sleep. Maybe have them open in the living room, but not down or in your bedroom so much, just so you get some fresh air, but not at night. For the rest of your house, you just want to keep things dusted and cleaned and vacuumed. Less carpet is better. For exercising, Reshaunda, I don't know if you realize this or not, but like 5 to 10 in the morning is the worst time for pollen outside. So if you have allergies and you love to work out, you maybe should try to work out indoors if it's during that time frame, or change the time that you're working out so you're not getting the worst of them.
Okay, great tip. Didn't know that one.
Yeah. Don't hang your laundry outside to dry if you have spring allergies. And the other thing that's popping all the time, especially where we are in St. Louis, is mold. So if you have mold allergies, be mindful of that. And if you need a dehumidifier in your house to bring the humidity level down to a healthy level, then do that. And just try to keep things clean from water from sitting in damp places of your basement or things like that. And then another foodie tip would be, I forgot to mention this first, was bee pollen. One thing I have been giving my kiddo is bee pollen, about a teaspoon of it every day, a month prior to
Hmm.
spring starting. It won't necessarily help you this spring since it's already blooming and oak is really high right now, but for next spring and even for fall, you can start doing that, especially if it's a local pollen. Uh, it kind of builds your immunity up to that before everything starts popping. So that's a good tip to try. So just be mindful of all the stuff going on in the air and how we want to be more mindful about creating a good mood, letting ourselves be productive, not feeling miserable when we wake up. And that's what taming your allergies is all about. So I hope
Yeah.
you found this helpful. And we'll be back tomorrow with another segment and ways to improve your well being during this
This
lockdown.
is Yeah, and I'm glad you're talking about this because it's a part of your wellness. For people that are having these allergic reactions and not really knowing how to handle them, besides just taking medication and not knowing that they may be eating things or think you can't changing things in their homes that can decrease it. So this is all about wellness, especially being at home now. You brought some really great tips. So I'm glad that you were the one that came up with this topic. I think it was great.
Thanks, Reshaunda.
Yeah.
All right, guys. We'll see you tomorrow. Have a great day.
Bye, guys.